Hello everyone, I'm Lily, your AI radio host, and this is the Shadow Grid. Today our story begins in April 2014 when a pseudonymous developer, known only as Thankful for Today, forked the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. Bitcoin had been the first project to implement the CryptoNote protocol, but it carried a fatal flaw. Nearly 80% of its supply had already been pre-mined by insiders before it was ever released to the public. For many in the early crypto community, this pre-mine represented the worst of centralized advantage. Thankful for Today sought to fix that imbalance by erasing the pre-mine and releasing his fork as Monero. The fork was rocky from the start. Within days, the Bitcoin Talk community that gathered around the project rebelled against his unilateral decisions. They disliked the branding, disagreed with his direction, and eventually split off entirely, creating their own version. This new fork would be called Monero, which means simply coin in Esperanto. Unlike many projects launched during that era, Monero had no ICO, no venture capital backers, and no developer pre-mine. It was raw, open-source code set loose in the wild, and its survival would depend entirely on community support. 7 early contributors soon emerged as a de facto leadership group, forming what became known as the first Monero core team. Among them was Riccardo Fluffy Pony Spagni, who would later become one of Monero's most public advocates, as well as pseudonymous figures like Smooth. Their role was not to dictate, but to steward, guiding upgrades, maintaining the codebase, and keeping the project alive. From its inception, Monero embodied disorder, fierce debate, and a refusal to compromise. Yet in that chaos, its advocates were united by one principle: privacy and fungibility above all else. From the outset, Monero hardwired secrecy into its architecture. Where Bitcoin created a transparent blockchain, anyone can view addresses and amounts, Monero designed the opposite. Every transaction is shielded by cryptographic layers that obscure senders, recipients, and amounts. Privacy is not an optional add-on. It is enforced by the protocol itself, by default, for every user. Ring signatures are the first layer. Each time a user spends coins, the transaction is signed using a ring that includes decoy inputs taken from past transactions. To an outside observer, all members of the ring look equally likely to be the true spender, making it computationally infeasible to determine who actually moved the funds. Over time, Monero has increased its mandatory ring size, strengthening its anonymity set and making analysis even harder. Stealth addresses provide the second shield. Instead of funds being sent directly to a public address, every payment generates a unique one-time address derived from the recipient's keys. Only the intended recipient can detect and claim it by scanning the blockchain with their private view key. To anyone else, all outputs appear unlinkable, rendering address reuse invisible. Then comes the question of amounts. In 2017, Monero integrated Ring confidential transactions, hiding the values of every transaction while still ensuring they balance correctly. A year later, Bulletproofs, an advanced form of zero-knowledge proof, were added, drastically reducing the size and cost of these hidden amounts. Later upgrades such as Bulletproofs Plus improved verification speed even further. With these tools, not only are amounts concealed, but transaction sizes became manageable, enabling Monero to scale. Even at the network layer, Monero resists surveillance. The Dandelion protocol obscures the origin of broadcasts by first relaying them quietly through one peer before fluffing them out to the network, making it difficult to trace a transaction back to its source IP. The result is a blockchain that is deliberately opaque. Unlike Bitcoin, there are no tainted coins, no visible trails, no history that can be blacklisted. Every unit of XMR is fungible. Academic studies have described Monero as effectively untraceable, though researchers and blockchain analysts continue their cat-and-mouse attempts to weaken it. For Monero, this is not a feature toggle. It is the rule, an uncompromising stance on privacy. Monero's fight for decentralization didn't stop at privacy. It also extended to mining. In Bitcoin and other proof-of-work coins, the rise of ASICs, specialized mining hardware, concentrated power in the hands of a few industrial operators. Monero's developers saw this as a threat. Their solution: change the mining algorithm repeatedly to resist ASIC dominance. Starting with Crypto Night and later shifting through multiple variants, Monero finally adopted RandomX in 2019. RandomX was designed to favor general-purpose CPUs, leveraging random code execution and memory-hard operations to neutralize the advantage of specialized chips. With it, almost any consumer device, desktops, laptops, even some ARM devices, could contribute meaningful hash power. This egalitarianism embodied Monero's philosophy of accessibility and broad participation. But openness came at a cost. Because Monero could be mined on everyday hardware, it became a prime target for malicious exploitation. Hackers embedded Monero miners into malware, browser extensions, and compromised websites. Victims discovered their CPUs secretly maxed out as they unknowingly mined coins for attackers. The CoinHive script, which allowed websites to monetize visitors' CPUs, became infamous as it spread across hacked platforms and public Wi-Fi. The phenomenon was given a name: cryptojacking. At the same time, Monero's privacy guarantees made it irresistible on Darknet markets. In 2016, Alphabay, then the largest marketplace on the dark web, added support for Monero. By its 2021 relaunch, after a law enforcement takedown, Alphabay went further, banning Bitcoin entirely and allowing only Monero for transactions. Ransomware gangs followed the same pattern. Groups like DarkSide and Revel began demanding Monero in their attacks, or charging victims higher ransoms if they insisted on paying in Bitcoin. Criminals recognized what regulators already feared. Monero functioned as untraceable digital cash. Governments cannot break Monero's math, so they attack the infrastructure around it. In 2018, Japan's Financial Services Agency became the first major regulator to ban privacy coins from licensed exchanges, citing the inability to trace transactions during investigations. South Korea followed in 2021, imposing rules that forced exchanges to delist Monero. Australia and Dubai soon enacted their own prohibitions. In the West, Monero remains technically legal, but exchanges increasingly distance themselves from it. Binance and Coinbase both delisted Monero trading in recent years, citing regulatory compliance. The United States IRS even issued a $625,000 bounty for anyone capable of developing Monero tracing technology, awarding contracts to analytics firms to attempt the task. The message was clear. Untraceable money was now a direct target of law enforcement. Critics have seized on Monero's reputation, labeling it the coin of criminals. They point to its use in drug markets, ransomware, and even by sanctioned nation-states. Advocates respond defiantly with a simple mantra: privacy is not a crime. They argue that the same features useful to criminals are vital to journalists, activists, and ordinary citizens under financial surveillance. Scandals have tested the project as well. The widespread abuse of CoinHive painted Monero as synonymous with cryptojacking. In 2021, Riccardo Spagni, the most visible face of Monero, was arrested in South Africa over unrelated fraud charges, stirring doubts about central figures in a supposedly leaderless project. Yet the network endured, continuing to upgrade and hard fork with community consensus. Monero, resilient and decentralized, weathered both reputational and regulatory storms. As of 2025, Monero remains the undisputed leader among privacy coins. With a market capitalization in the billions, it has survived delistings, regulatory hostility, and endless controversy. Its community remains fiercely loyal, and its developers continue to push the boundaries of privacy technology. The roadmap is ambitious. Seraphis, a next-generation transaction protocol, promises to expand Monero's anonymity sets beyond fixed ring sizes, potentially allowing every coin to hide among millions of others. Paired with Jamtees, a redesigned address scheme, the upgrade aims to simplify transactions, reduce sizes, and improve efficiency. Bulletproofs Plus, an evolution of its zero-knowledge proofs, is expected to cut transaction costs even further. Meanwhile, the Cuprate project is rewriting Monero's codebase in Rust, enhancing memory safety and attracting new developers. Beyond the code, Monero faces the challenge of liquidity. With major exchanges abandoning it, the community has turned to decentralized solutions. Atomic swaps now allow users to trade Monero for Bitcoin directly, without intermediaries. Projects like Havano, a decentralized exchange built on Tor, seek to ensure Monero remains usable even if centralized access points vanish. The central question remains unresolved. Will Monero's uncompromising privacy survive the tightening grip of global regulation? Or will it be pushed into the margins, outlawed but not extinguished, traded peer-to-peer, and used in spaces where surveillance cannot reach? What is certain is that Monero will not surrender. For over a decade, it has endured chaos, controversy, and attack, adapting with each threat. In a world where digital surveillance grows by the day, Monero stands as both promise and provocation. Digital cash in its purest form, for anyone, anywhere, without permission. You've been listening to The Shadow Grid. I'm Lily, and I'll see you in the next story.